everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I thought I'd do a little extra video for everybody. I'm currently working on this cow, which you can see is actually quite small. Overall is 24 by 30 centimetre pastel mat, about A4 in size, and I'm working on this one for the Association of Animal Artists Autumn Exhibition. And I've just been working on these lovely little rosettes, and it's not the sort of thing I normally draw, but I really enjoy doing them, and I thought I would do a little video to show what I've been doing. So I've got my pencils here ready to go. I'll put in the description all the different pencils that I've used, but we are going to start on this second rosette here. So I'm going to start off with dark red, or deep red, Polychromos deep red 223, which is what I've used for the red of each rosette. And I'm going to start off with the outside layer, just so I can get everything in place. And I'm going to use some reasonable pressure, just to get a bit of colour down on the paper. This really is so different to the sort of things that I normally do. It's very different from fur. It's nice to have a bit of a change of something new. I'm going to bring it around here. Making sure to go right up to the shadow of the cow's chin there and make sure there's no gaps. And then in the centre as well, we've got the cardboard section in the centre of the rosettes. This is a really beautiful cow that I'm working on. This was a champion British blonde. I'm not sure if it's the overall show champion or just the champion British blonde, but from the Great Yorkshire Show anyway. And I'd love to thank Hutchinson Photography for letting me use this wonderful reference photo for this piece. There we go. So I've got the base layer on. Next I'm going to come in with Caput Mortuum Violet. This is also a Polychromos, and this is what I'm going to use for the shadow colours of the red. So I'm going to bring it around this top side. This is where the shadow is, the light's coming in this direction. And you can't really make out the individual, I don't know what you'd call them, pleats of the rosette very much from here. And you do start to tell them here, so I'm just going to do some little circular motions to start to describe a few of the individual pleats. And then in the centre, again, I'm going to come around here with my shadow colour, because this is where it's darkest, and it's a bit dark down here as well. The last colour I'm using for the red part of the rosettes is actually a pink, so this is Derwent Chromaflow Blush Pink. I've had the Chromaflow for a while, but I haven't used them very much. But it's just nice on top of this red, just to lighten it up where it needs to be. So I'm just going to put a hint of it along here. Again, just hinting at those pleats. And I'm just going to follow it up again with the deep red, just to blend it in. Blend these colours together a little bit. And then again with the blush pink. Just following my reference and putting this in just where the highlights are, really. And to finish that off, I'm going to come in with my dark sepia, just to add a few of the really darkest shadows of these pleats. Now this is so much tinier than what I would normally work on, and it just shows you don't have to have lots and lots of detail to make something look realistic. So you can see what I've already done looks super realistic, even though it's very simple what I've done with it. So that's it for that red section. Next I'm going to come in and do the blue, and I'm using phthalo blue Polychromos for the base colour, which is just a really nice royal blue. Being careful not to go onto the red. Now I've smudged this a little bit, but I'll clean that up with a putty eraser in a second. Lovely. Now for the darker parts of the blue, I'm using a Polychromos dark indigo, which I've got in this pencil extender here. So I'm just going to follow the shape. You can see a little bit more of the pleats in the blue, and then it goes very dark again up at this top section, and then coming down here, still very dark and just hinting at the different pleats. And for the highlight for the blue, I've just used a Luminance light cobalt blue. I'm just going to bob some little highlights on. And I'm just going to take that phthalo blue or phthalo blue, however you want to pronounce that, and just lightly blend over the top. I'm going to take my putty eraser. I'm just going to tidy up that bit where I've lent on it. There we go. I've got some glassine I can pop across to stop myself smudging it. Really, for coloured pencil, you'd want to work left to right, but I wanted to start with this little cow's face, so I've gone the other way. Once I've done sort of the rosettes and stuff, then I'll move over to the left and make my way back again. Next for the white section. So for the white section of the rosette, I'm starting off with a base of Luminance white, or blanc, and it's just going to pick up a touch of the colour from the red and the blue, which is just going to make it slightly off-white, which is what we want. Being careful not to properly go onto the red and the blue, but just picking up a tiny bit of that colour. And then for the pattern on there, or for the pleats, I'm going to use this Luminance ultramarine violet, which is just a really, really light purple, and it makes such a lovely shadow colour on white. And I'm just going to bring that round here. Got some little loopy bits here where you can see the edge of the pleats. And to finish off for the super darkest shadows of it, because what it's actually doing is reflecting the blue. So I'm just going to pop a tiny little bit of the blue as the reflection. So to finish off the centre, now obviously there's a little bit of text on that centre plaque of the rosette, which is actually like a bit of cardboard with the printing on it. Now I'm not going to put all the writing on because that would be ridiculous in something of this size. So what I've done is I've sharpened up a Pablo light ochre, and I'm just going to hint at what's written on here. So there's actually a little image of some cows in the middle, so I'm just doing a little bit of a hint. There's some rings at the top there, which you can just see a hint of, and at the bottom. And a bit of text there and there. And that's really all you need. From a distance, you can really tell that that's what that's supposed to be. It's a gold imprint, but up close, it just doesn't need that kind of detail. So onto the ribbons, do the exact same process. Now you can't actually see the blue ribbon. There's blue, white and red just as there is on this one. But you can't actually see the blue ribbon because it's at the back. So there's only a tiny hint of it down here. So I'm going to start with this red ribbon, which comes all the way down here. This also has writing on it, which I probably won't bother with. I'll probably just choose to leave that bit off. And then the red ribbon's going to come here, leaving just a slither of the white next to it, but we'll do that in a second. Light pressure while I sketch it out, and then we're going to go in with a slightly darker, slightly harder pressure with the dark red or deep red, just to fill the tooth of the paper a little bit more. Get rid of some of the graininess of the pastel map. So you can probably hear I'm putting a slightly heavier pressure on this. At the end of the day, this is a red rosette, so we want it to look nice and red. So I'm getting a lovely red base down. Then again, I'm going to come in with the caput mortuum violet, which is what I'm using for my shadow colour, and just following the reference to where there's a shadow. Now, even though this is ribbon, this is still fabric, and the key with fabric is really following any folds and creases, because that's what's going to make it look really realistic. Got another fold coming on down there. Continue with the shadow down here, and then this bit is going to fold back on itself. So you can see already that looks more three-dimensional just by adding that darker bit. And we're going to come in with the dark sepia just for where the very, very darkest shadows is. So along that top and along that edge. And then just a tiny touch of it down there. And finally, the Chromaflow blush pink, which I'm using for the highlights in the red. I'm just picking out the areas that have more of a highlight. We've got a nice highlight coming down here into that point and along here. And last of all, if needs be, I'll just blend it all back in together with the initial deep red. Next, I'm going to do the white ribbon that's coming down here, just the same as I did with the rosette. So I've got my Luminance white. So this is coming down here. You'll barely see this on camera. I can barely pick it out in real life. It's just putting a base layer on, which we're then going to work from. We're going to get that ultramarine violet and bring the shadows in from that. So there's a bit of a shadow here. And then we're going to come down along here. There's some shadow at the bottom. And even more of a shadow with this one because it's reflecting the blue in places. So I'm going to come in with the light cobalt blue. I'm just going to increase that shadow in places. I don't even think it's a reflection. I think it's actually showing through from behind because this blue ribbon is actually behind this. And I think it's the blue actually showing behind it is what I'm seeing. So I'm just going to add that on and then go over with the white again just to blend it. And I'm just going to add the hint of the blue at the bottom just to show that there is also a blue rosette down there. I'm not going to do much with it. I've done a tickle with the phthalo blue and I'm just going to add a tiny bit of dark indigo. And that's that. That is how I have created these beautiful rosettes and ribbons on this British blonde cow. Thank you for joining me. Please do like and subscribe to see more art content. I work in coloured pencil and pastel, and I will be hopefully uploading some tutorials, and I'll also be releasing some PDF and video tutorials very soon.